Well, hey, good morning again, and welcome to the journey. Welcome to those joining us online as well. As today we are wrapping up our series called Weak or Wise, and we've been talking about wisdom since the beginning of the year. We want to make wise choices so we can make the most of this new year, and making choices is important because our choices shape our life and our relationships, and so we want to make wise choices. And so we've been looking at how to make wise choices with our money. We've talked about how humility and pride factors into our choices and how humility can help us make wise choices. We talked about how as parents we want to make wise choices so we don't screw up our kids, and part of that is teaching them to make wise choices as they get older and make choices that are wise on their own. We talked about our marriages. We want to make a wise choice when it comes to who we're going to marry, and in our marriages, making these choices so it can stand the test of time. And last week, we talked about our friendships and how we looked at a proverb that said that when we walk with the wise, we become wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm. So we have to pay attention to our friends because our friends figure into our focus and shape our life. And so choosing our friends is an important decision. So that's a lot of wisdom we've been talking about. And if you've missed any of those weeks or you want to go back and review them or share them, you can always do that on our website or YouTube channel, and you can check that out. And today, though, we're going to be wrapping up the series, and we're talking about the words. We're talking about our mouth, those things we say. And before we jump into it, I just want to say this too. We've been talking through the book of Proverbs, and I know a lot of you did the reading plan. You can always jump in on the YouVersion Bible app and read through that. And so we've been looking at all these Proverbs, and throughout Proverbs, there's all this great wisdom, and so we've been looking at that all month, and there's so much more in there than even what we have shared. And a lot of times in Proverbs, it talks about a wise or a foolish person. And I read through the whole book of Proverbs this month along with a series, and whenever I read those verses about someone who's wise or someone who is a fool, and contrasting those two, in my inner monologue in my brain, it reads it as Mr. T voice. I don't know if it happens to you or not, but it'll be wise, and then I pity the fool who does this. And I noticed that, I don't know if you noticed on the Super Bowl, there was a few good commercials, and there was a new commercial with Mr. T and Tony Romo with Skechers shoes. So if you don't know who Mr. T is, you can look for that one. We have a special bond. He has the same birthday as I do, so we're tight. And but today, as we're thinking through Proverbs, again, we're looking at some different Proverbs today, and there's a lot in the book of Proverbs about how we can use our words and be wise with our words. It doesn't necessarily say words, though. It talks about like our tongue or our lips or our mouth and all the things that are spewing out of our face. And so it has a lot to say about our words, and probably even one of the biggest topics we see throughout the book of Proverbs. And here's one kind of overview of what we're going to be talking about today. Proverbs 18:21 says this: "The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit." The tongue has the power of life and death. Our words have the power to either bring destruction to our life and relationships, or they have the power to bring life, to speak life into someone else and to renew our life. Our tongue, our words have this power, and it talks about how those who get a taste of this fruit of our tongue, they love it. Like some people, they get a taste of how they can exert power over other people with their words, and they love that. And there's the other side of some people have the enjoyment of how you can change someone's day or their attitude or their life by the words they share. Our words are definitely powerful. And I'm guessing that as we're beginning to talk about this, that you've had maybe two different experiences with words. Maybe you have words that you regret saying, or there's also the side of maybe there's been words that you have heard that have hurt you, that have been spoken to you in such a way that you still think about them, even though it has been years ago. They still have this wound on you. Or maybe on the other side of that, maybe someone has shared something to you that's been so encouraging that you remember that and you think back to that, and it's been a time for you just to kind of think back on those words, and it still speaks life into you. I'm guessing when it comes to our words, everyone probably has some regrets. I know I do. I shared this as part of the series. There was a time when I was in high school, and I had a friend, Melissa, in our youth group, and she said to me, "Matt, why do you always make fun of other people to make yourself feel good?" And it was kind of like, those were actually words of life to me, because it made me pause to think about the words that I was saying. And I didn't even realize I was doing that. I was just trying to be funny, but my words were having a negative effect on other people. I've had times when I've regretted things I've said out of anger or frustration or just trying to be funny. And I'm guessing that you've probably had the same experience, right? Or maybe you have someone in your life. Do you have a person in your life, or maybe this is you, where there's no filter between the brain and the mouth? It just all just kind of, if their thought pops up here, it comes out here. Do you have someone like that in your life? Or maybe you are that person. They have no filter. There's just the words are coming out. Or maybe it's even the negative effect. Maybe there's someone you know, and it's just like, I'm going to speak my truth, and everyone else has to deal with it. If I have an opinion, I'm going to let everyone know about it. And maybe it's like, hey, it's a free country. I can say whatever I want to say, and I'm just going to share whatever is on my mind. Maybe you know someone like that. It's just whatever they think is right and true, they're going to share it, and everyone else needs to deal with it. And for some people, as they do that, that's a sign of strength for them. And if you don't do that, or if you can't deal with what they have to say, they're like, that's weak. That's weak. Just be the true you. Just say all the things that are in your mind. That's the strong approach. That's what they would say. But what we're going to see in the book of Proverbs today is that actually isn't strong at all. Actually, that brings destruction. That brings ruin to our life and relationships. We're going to see today in the book of Proverbs that wisdom is all about controlling our tongue and choosing our words wisely. Because our life is shaped by our choices, and what we choose to say has the power of life or death. Here's some other examples in the book of Proverbs about this. Proverbs 12:18, it says this: the words of the reckless pierce like a sword, but the tongue of the wise bring healing. Again, maybe you've experienced that. Like there's been a wound in your life because someone's words that they shared recklessly is like a sword that pierced you. Or we have a chance to share words that can actually heal a relationship or help someone find healing. That's how the tongue works. Proverbs 10:8, the wise in heart accept commands, but the chattering fool comes to ruin. That if we're just talking and there's no filter, it can actually lead to us maybe sharing things or saying things we don't mean or we're not aware of, and it can cause ruin in our life and relationships. I think that was part of, when I was sharing my story about Melissa, it was like, that's something that I'm trying to learn. I think I've learned over the years, and I have to keep trying to learn this, because it might not even be that I'm trying to speak words that might be hurtful. It's just that I'm not aware. Like I know, like for me and my family, I grew up, I had like a bunch of brothers, and our whole family is very sarcastic. I had a brother and two other stepbrothers that were close to me, and my older sister, she's like tough, she's like strong, and she's like very sarcastic too. It's like we just grew up in this sarcastic home, and a bunch of brothers, and the way we would show affection is you make fun of the other person, and you punch them, and you goof around, and you say things, and you remind them of all their mistakes, and we'd all laugh at each other and stuff like that. But that's how I kind of grew up, and I grew up like playing sports, and that whole realm of things doesn't really teach you to be concerned about the words you say either. So it's just like I've always been around like guys and stuff like that, and growing up, I didn't really even see how my words had a chance to cause ruin to my life and relationships. Like I'm trying to learn that. I have to keep reminding myself of that, and maybe you've had a similar experience. Like our words can cause ruin even when we don't realize it or aren't intending that. We have to pay attention to the words that come out of our mouth. It says a chattering fool comes to ruin. Maybe it's, I pity the fool who chatters too much. I don't know. That's a way to read that. Proverbs 14:3. A fool's mouth lashes out with pride. The lips of the wise protect them. I pity the fool who lashes out with pride. So again, we see this, and we talked about this, like our words can be like a lashes that can like whip people down. It can like be hurtful to people. And we talked about, like, this is saying it's out of pride. Like, we talked about that in part of the series. Like, sometimes out of our own self-consciousness or our pride, we say things because we want people to like us, or we're not even sensitive to the other people around us. But it says that can be foolish. It can cause hurt. Or we can speak with wisdom, and it can actually protect our life. There's dangers when it comes to the words that we say. Our words can bring death and destruction and ruin, or we can speak life and renew our life with our words. We see some of the dangers. It talks about this in Proverbs 2. It talks about some different examples of what the dangers would be when it comes to our words. Proverbs 11:13, it says, a gossip betrays confidence, but a trustworthy person keeps secrets. Proverbs 20:19, a gossip betrays a confidence, so avoid anyone who talks too much. Proverbs 16, a perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends. Here we see three examples of how gossiping can affect our relationship. It can cause destruction and death and ruin. It says that it separates friends. It says that it betrays confidence. I don't know if that's you. Maybe you're one who likes to spill all the tea. Maybe you're like always in the office and you want to hear what's going on with everybody else, and you're always got a listening ear to that. And here's what I think is interesting is we got to think about this. What it said, avoid people who do this, because we talked about this last week. Like, friends figure into our focus, and this comes back to that week. That even if you're just listening in and not participating in, if you're part of that, some people can find out, hey, all those people were talking about you, and all of a sudden you can be huddled in this group who is causing betrayal towards this other person. It can separate you. You can lose the chance to speak life into them, or ruin a chance at a friendship. Or, to be honest with you, if you know somebody like this, who is always spilling the beans, betraying confidence, that's always about gossip, like, you don't really trust that person. Like, they might be your friend, but they're probably not going to be a close friend because you can't really trust them. And if that's you, know that's what you're portraying here. This is what the wisdom of the Bible says, is that you're betraying people and you're separating friends, because our tongue can cause ruin. So I think we have to be aware of that. Maybe if we have people in our life, as I said here, we got to avoid those people who are gossips, because you can be betrayed by them, or you might be part of a group that betrays someone else. But it also talks about lots of other dangers with our words. It talks about lying. There's a lot of examples with that. Proverbs 12:22 is one of them. It says, the Lord detests lying lips, but delights in people who are trustworthy. It talks about mocking, or in the sense maybe words of this day would be like bullying or harsh words with other people. Proverbs 14 says, the mocker seeks wisdom, finds none, but knowledge comes easy to the discerning. Stay away from a fool, for you will not find knowledge on their lips. Talks about our words. Again, here's these dangers. Lying betrays confidence. You're not trustworthy. It can bring ruin to your life and relationships. Mocking, bullying, those type of words, dominating over other people, overly sarcastic. Again, this is what I'm learning about. Can cause hurt, can cause pain. And it says there's no knowledge in that. There's no wisdom. Those words aren't helping anyone. Our words can cause destruction and ruin to our life and in our relationships. But on the other hand, it can speak life. Look at these verses, how if we choose to speak life into other people, it can make all the difference. Proverbs 12:25, it says this, anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up. Like if we see someone and they're struggling, the stress of life is hitting them hard, you have opportunity to shift their whole attitude and perspective with a kind word. Maybe you see someone and they're just burdened with that stress, to be like, hey, you can do this. I'm here with you. I can encourage you. Or to say like, hey, you faced this before. You can defeat it. You can overcome this. It's like a kind word can build them up. It can change their whole attitude. See this? It says in another verse here. It says Proverbs 16:24. It says, gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Gracious words are so sweet, and it brings healing. Like gracious words with grace. It might be like, I'm sorry. It might mean, I forgive you. Like those words are words of grace, and that can change everything in a relationship. It can tear down walls that have been built. It can release burdens. Like if you're carrying a burden of unforgiveness, and you're so mad at someone because of what they said to you, if you're just carrying that around, that's like a burden on you. And while you might not be letting them off the hook, just to say like, I forgive you, but you might want to avoid that person, whatever. You're not like just saying it's all okay to what you said, but just to get rid of that burden. Those words of grace can change everything for you and for that person. Or when you mess up, just to say, I'm sorry. It just, again, it helps renew the relationship. Or gracious words in this sense. If someone fails at something or messes up or has a bad day, to come alongside of them and say like, hey, it's okay. Like you had a bad day or this didn't go well. Let's keep pushing on. How can I be in there with you? Or you can do this. I've seen you accomplish this before. You can overcome this. Like those words of grace to be like, it's okay that you failed. That keep going. I'm with you. Everyone messes up it sometimes. Like words of grace like that can give them the inspiration to keep going or to get on the right track or can just renew friendships. They're sweet to the soul. They bring healing in their life and in the relationships. Proverbs 15 says this, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise adorns knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly. Verse 4, a soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a first tongue crushes the spirit. Again, we see how the tongue can bring life or death, but it says here, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs it up. Now, to me, this is a hard one, but I've seen this play out in my life. If someone is upset or frustrated and they're coming at me, if I respond with the same frustration or anger, it just stirs up the conflict. But here it says, a gentle answer can turn away wrath. Like sometimes someone's just frustrated. They're not even frustrated with you. And if you can respond with gentleness, of kind words, you can dissolve the whole situation. But maybe you've been around people like this. They say, I'm nice to everyone unless you cross me, unless you say something to me. It's like, that's not what this says here. It says do the opposite of that. If someone is coming at you with harshness, if we respond with kindness, we can dissolve the situation. We can actually maybe keep a friendship instead of destroying one. We can actually help them move past their frustration. We can actually maybe not get pulled into their anger and frustration and then let it ruin our whole day. Just by responding with a gentle answer. It can make all the difference. And so we see there's power of life and death in the words we choose. So we have to be wise with our words. How do we do that? Proverbs has a lot to say about that as well. What do we do? How do we have wisdom when it comes to our words? Proverbs 10, verse 19 says this, sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues. We have to choose, is this the right time to say this? Do I even need to say this? It says the prudent, the wise, they choose when it's the right time to say something. Proverbs 13:3 says, those who guard their lips preserve their lives, but those who speak rashly come to ruin. If there's no filter in between your brain and your mouth, it says you're risking ruining your life and relationships. But if we can create this filter where we think before we speak, or we choose to not even speak in these moments, it says we can preserve our life and relationships. Proverbs 15:28, it says, the heart of the righteous weighs its answers, but the mouth of the wicked gushes evil. We see this time and time again. It's this gushing, this I'm just going to respond. I'm just sharing these words without thought. But here it says the wise thing to do is to weigh our answers. If I respond in this situation, is this going to help the situation at all? Is this going to change? Is this a wise time for me to say it? Like if someone is talking about politics and they are on the total opposite side of you and they're saying all these things that you don't agree with, it says you should weigh your answer. Is this actually going to help anything? Or is this a chance for me just to not say something? Or maybe to respond with gentleness, because a gentle answer can calm the situation down. You know, if you are in a situation and someone is gossiping, you have the chance to weigh your answer. Do I want to participate in this? Or do I want to maybe shut this down? Or maybe just walk away from this? Or you're in a situation and you have this thought, should I share this thought? Maybe I should just not talk and just listen. Maybe this is a chance for me to learn. Maybe this is a chance for me to develop. I think that's partly why it says the wise are holding their tongues, because it gives us more opportunities to listen, to learn, to not just share what is in our minds so we can maybe understand someone else's perspective. It says the righteous weigh their answers. Proverbs 17, the one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even-tempered. Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues. Like maybe you're not good maybe you're not good at decisions. Maybe you're not wise. Maybe you're trying to learn all this stuff. Maybe you're like, I don't really know what to say at times. It's better to even just keep silent, it says here, than just to share and participate. And like listen and learn. Choose your words wisely. Proverbs 21, those who guard their mouths and their tongues will keep themselves from calamity. This is what we've been talking about all this year. It's like we want to make wise choices so we can make the most of this new year, so we don't end up in foolish decisions that cause ruin to our life. Here we see this again. If we guard our mouth, if we think before we speak, if we hold our tongue, it says we can keep our life free from the calamity, the dangers, the struggles. It can help preserve our life. If you have no filter in between your brain and your mouth, maybe this is a filter you should consider. I've heard people talk about this before. Like, how do I begin to think before I speak? It's just maybe this thought of, is it kind? Is it helpful? Is it true? Have you ever heard about that before? Maybe you have. I think this is a good filter. It goes right along with the book of Proverbs here. That when you come to a situation and you're trying to give weight, you're waiting to speak, you're weighing your answers, think, is it kind? Is it helpful? Is it true? Not just one of those, because it might be true, but it might just be your truth. So this is a chance to listen. But it might be everyone's truth. You're like, this person is way off base. Like, I don't know what. And so it might be true, but if you share it, it might not be helpful, and it might not be kind. So maybe you shouldn't share that. Or maybe it's kind, but it's not true or helpful. Like we're not saying you should just talk to everyone like you're a kindergarten teacher. Hey, life is great. I hope you have a sunny day. I hope everything is perfect. You're special. You're the best. Everything you do is perfect. We're not saying that at all. Because you can share what's kind, but it might not be helpful or true. You might just be enabling that person. You might be lying to that person just so they aren't mad at you. Like, that's not the way to go either. So it's creating this filter of, is it kind? Is it helpful? Is it true? You're weighing your answer before you speak. You're thinking before you're sharing, and you're considering, is this going to be helpful, true, kind for the situation? Maybe that's a good start to begin to create a filter in your mind. We have to be wise with our words, because our words have the weight of life and death. Not only for you, but for others. It can ruin relationships, or you can speak life and renew your own life and encourage and affect other people. So I want you to consider two things. One is, how can I increase my filter to think before I speak? Maybe that's something you just need to start to work on. Maybe it's starting to hold your tongue. Maybe it's just maybe the first step is like, I'm not going to talk as much. Maybe that second step is, I'm going to try to create this filter before I speak. But maybe take it another step beyond that. Maybe you're pretty good at that. Another step is, you have the chance to speak life into people. You have a chance to take a stressful, angry situation and diffuse it. You have a chance to speak gracious words to bring healing. You have a chance to cheer someone's heart who is suffering from anxiety and struggle in life. Like, you have the chance to do that. Your words have the power to do that. What if we were to be maybe more thoughtful about that, more intentional about that? Like, what if this week you're like, every day I'm going to try to share 3 kind words with different people. 3 different people, I'm going to share something kind with them, or gracious, or gentle, or encouraging. Like, what if we were to do that every day? I think what you'll find is, when we go back to that first verse where we started, is that when you speak life, you'll get a taste of that fruit, and you'll love it. And you'll love the difference you get to make in people's life. You'll love that you get to build relationships. See, our words build bridges with people. And when we speak kindness, you become trustworthy. You become the person that people want to look to. You build these relationships, and you affect their life, and it changes your life right alongside with that. So what if we were to take that maybe a step further, to create this filter, but also to look for more opportunities to speak kindness? I think what you'll find is that you will grow in wisdom when you choose to be wise with your words. It will affect not only your life, but the relationships alongside of you. I'm going to ask you just to close your eyes with me as we wrap this up. Just think for yourself. What's this next step? Maybe I need to practice not speaking as much. Maybe I need to create this filter, like, is it kind? Is it true? Is it helpful? Or maybe it's like, I need to take a step up in sharing kind words with others. I don't know where you're at with that today. There's maybe 3 ways to consider this today. So maybe in this moment to say, God, I need you to help me with this. Maybe God, show me how to do this. Maybe God, remind me of this. Maybe show me opportunities to be kind. May I be more aware of that. However you want to respond, I would encourage you just to respond right now. God hears our prayers. He's with us right now. Lord God, when we think of your words, and they are words of life. As we look through the Proverbs this month, or even just your words throughout the Bible, they speak to our hearts and our souls, and we want our words to be a reflection of that, God. We want to draw near to you in such a way where you affect not only who we are on the inside, but you change the words that are coming out of our mouth, God. In this week to come, may we be more aware of our words. May we be able to pause and weigh our answers. May we see opportunities to speak kindness into other people and shift their life as well. God, forgive us for those times that we regret when our words brought ruin, brought hurt. May we be wise so we don't have to face that again. May we look to bring life, and may you fill our life as we do that. We pray in your name. Amen. We're going to respond.